Good afternoon, everyone. Let us stand and sing number 349, to glorious Apollo and Lumina. Let us make our fiats for illumination's golden flame. Together.
Apollo from on high beheld us, wandering to find a temple for his praise. Sent angel devas hither to shield us, while we ourselves such an altar might raise. Thus then combining, heart and hands joining, sing we in harmony Apollo's praise, Apollo's praise, Apollo's praise, Apollo's praise. Apollo's praise, glorious Apollo, hail
Meditation, Invocation.
Let thy light from far-off worlds shine, O thou great central sun. Let thy light shine, O thou great central sun. From the beginning unto the ending of our traversing these matter spheres, let thy light shine in our hearts, in our minds, in our souls, in our spirits. Draw the solar ring around us, Helios and Vesta, Alpha and Omega. O Lord my God, in the great central sun, by the right hand of the Divine Mother Omega, Mother Mary, Kuan Yin, and every incarnation of the feminine deity, I send forth the mighty sword Excalibur. Cleave asunder the real from the unreal, O Excalibur, thrust for me this day. Pierce therefore the murderer and the murderous intent, the liar and the lie. I call forth the Son of God, the cosmic Christ, to pierce and bind with mighty hosts of the Lord 156,000 gathered at this royal Teton ranch, the cause and core of all opposition to the victory of the light of individual Christhood in every child of God's heart in the matter spheres. Almighty God, we speak thy truth. O thou living truth, go forth as Christ's truth, to thrust therefore into the cause and core of all anti-truth, anti-Christ. Bind error and the erroneous doctrine, and encircle those who must raise now the sacred fire and not be deterred from their path of victory, come what may. Almighty God, I call to the great central sun for central sun messengers, cosmic Christ, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, descend to earth in this hour to overshadow all who must be called from their attractions to the lower order of things. Let them be drawn now by the magnet of the central sun to the higher order of the Christ presence living within. O mighty sword Excalibur, hear my call. Ruby ray angels, hear my call. Deliver us in this hour from all known or unknown who would move against us to destroy this community or church by means of federal, state, or local government, agencies, and agencies of death and hell, known or unknown. While we commune in Maitreya's mystery school, I call forth the legions of Sanat Kumara, Gautama Buddha, Lord Maitreya, Jesus Christ, to defend our right to be doing what we are doing, even the giving and receiving of the word, that the chain might continue forever, and the word of God, the word of Jesus Christ, live forever. Almighty God, we stand for the salvation of all souls everywhere. Let them be quickened. O Maha Chohan and 7 Chohans, let them be quickened, and let those who are the servants of corruption be awakened, and let them bend the knee and confess the living Christ, and be humble before the Lord God Almighty. I pray for the deliverance of all souls everywhere, and I pray for special assistance to those who are already the servitors of the Most High God, that they might assist all life evolving here. Beloved, mighty I am presence from the heart of the sun. Quicken us, illumine us, infire us, instill in us thy love, that we might be magnets of thy love in the earth. This, O God, is our desire. Magnets of our love, magnets of thy love in the earth, O God. I decree it, I am it, and I rejoice to accept it done this hour in full power, O God. In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, and the Divine Mother, I send you Archangel Michael, 7 archangels, Elohim, Holy Kumaros, Solar Logoi. I send you forth to champion the light, to champion the right, and bind the darkness that it not prevail. In Jesus' name it is done.
Let us take our yellow folders for the illumination tape, and we will give Decree 2001. It is panel 7.
Lord Michael be forward, Lord Michael behind, Lord Michael to the right, Lord Michael to the left, Lord Michael above, Lord Michael below, Lord Michael wherever I go. I am his rotating ear, I am his rotating ear, I am his rotating ear. Lord Michael be forward, Lord Michael behind, Lord Michael to the right, Lord Michael to the left, Lord Michael above, Lord Michael below, Lord Michael wherever I go. I am his rotating ear, I am his rotating ear, I am his rotating ear. Lord Michael be forward, Lord Michael behind, Lord Michael to the right, Lord Michael to the left, Lord Michael above, Lord Michael below, Lord Michael wherever I go. I am his rotating ear, I am his rotating ear, I am his rotating ear. Lord Michael before, Lord Michael behind, Lord Michael to the right, Lord Michael to the left, Lord Michael above, Lord Michael below, Lord Michael wherever I go. I am his rotating ear, I am his rotating ear, I am his rotating ear. Lord Michael before, Lord Michael behind, Lord Michael to the right, Lord Michael to the left, Lord Michael above, Lord Michael below, Lord Michael wherever I go. I am his rotating ear, I am his rotating ear, I am his rotating ear.
Let us take I am Michael, Michael, Michael.
I am Michael, I stand within his name. I am Michael, my God, don't I am name. I am Michael, his face of blazing here. I am Michael, his power and love so dear. I am Michael, to light and love I bow. I am Michael, to defend the faith I vow. I am Michael, I enlist the light of men. I am Michael, America defend. I am Michael, his shield of faith I wear. I am Michael, his circling sword I bear. I am Michael, and armored by his love. I am Michael, blue lightning from above. I am Michael, protected by his word. I am Michael, the captain of the Lord. I am Michael, his legions now descend. I am Michael, his shadow light event. I am Michael, I stand within his name. I am Michael, my God, don't I am name. I am Michael, his face of blazing here. I am Michael, his power and love so dear. I am Michael, to light and love I bow. I am Michael, to defend the faith I vow. I am Michael, I enlist the light of men. I am Michael, America defend. I am Michael, his shield of faith I wear. I am Michael, his circling sword I bear. I am Michael, and armored by his love. I am Michael, blue lightning from above. I am Michael, protected by his word. I am Michael, the captain of the Lord. I am Michael, his legions now descend. I am Michael, his shadow light event. I am Michael, I stand within his name. I am Michael, my God, don't I am name. I am Michael, his faith of blazing here. I am Michael, his power of so dear. I am Michael, to light and love I vow. I am Michael, to defend the faith I vow. I am Michael, I enlist the light of men. I am Michael, America defend. I am Michael, his circling sword I bear. I am Michael, and armored by his love. I am Michael, blue lightning from above. I am Michael, protected by his word. I am Michael, the captain of the Lord. I am Michael, these legions now descend. I am Michael, his shadow light event.
Golden Waves of Peace, 2001.
O glorious golden flame of illumination from the heart of God in the great central sun, in the name of my beloved I am presence and holy Christ self, blaze forth now from the heart of beloved Alpha and Omega, from the heart of beloved Helios and Vesta, and from the heart of beloved God and Goddess Meru, into our individual hearts and minds, flooding them with the precious oil of illumination, poured out in limitless radiance into our chalice attention. Beloved mighty God presence I am in me and in the heart of the great central sun. Beloved Alpha and Omega, beloved Helios and Vesta, beloved great central sun messengers, all cosmic beings, powers, and legions of light, beloved Lord Gautama, beloved Nello, the entire spirit of the great white brotherhood and the world mother, elemental life, fire, air, water, and earth. Come, come, come now in the fullness of thy power, and direct thy precious light rays of divine illumination from the spiritual sun into our beings and worlds, flooding all with the golden flame of Christ's illumination, understanding, perception, and peace from the heart of God's own omniscience. Come, 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 O divine illumination's ray, come, come, come into my world to stay. Come, come, come in golden ways of peace. Come, 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 thy wisdom flame release. Come, 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 O divine illumination's ray. Come, come, come into my world to stay. Come, come, come in golden ways of peace. Come, 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 thy wisdom flame release. Come, 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 O divine illumination's ray. Come, come, come into my world to stay. Come, come, come in golden ways of peace. Come, 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 thy wisdom flame release. Come, 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 my divine illumination's ray. Come, come, come into my world to stay. Come, come in golden ways of peace. Come, come, thy wisdom flame release. Come, come, O divine illumination's ray. Come, come into my world to stay. Come, come in golden ways of peace. Come, thy wisdom flame release. Come, O divine illumination's ray. Come into my world to stay. Come in golden ways of peace. Come, thy wisdom flame release. Come, divine illumination's ray. Come into my world to stay. Come in golden ways of peace. Come, thy wisdom flame release. Come, divine illumination's ray. Come into my world to stay. Come in golden ways of peace. Come, thy wisdom flame release. Come, divine illumination's ray. Come into my world to stay. Come in golden ways of peace. Come, thy wisdom flame release. I am receiving, accepting, and absorbing the flame of cosmic Christ illumination from the very living presence of the God and Goddess Meru in the temple of illumination. I am receiving, accepting, and absorbing the flame of cosmic Christ illumination from the very living presence of the God and Goddess Meru in the temple of illumination. I am receiving, accepting, and absorbing the flame of cosmic Christ illumination from the very living presence of the God and Goddess Meru in the temple of illumination. I am receiving, accepting, and absorbing the flame of cosmic Christ illumination from the very living presence of the God and Goddess Meru in the temple of illumination. I am receiving, accepting, and absorbing the flame of cosmic Christ illumination from the very living presence of the God and Goddess Meru in the temple of illumination. I am receiving, accepting, and absorbing the flame of cosmic Christ illumination from the very living presence of the God and Goddess Meru in the temple of illumination. I am receiving, accepting, and absorbing the flame of cosmic Christ illumination from the very living presence of the God and Goddess Meru in the temple of illumination. I am receiving, accepting, and absorbing the flame of cosmic Christ illumination from the very living presence of the God and Goddess Meru in the temple of illumination. I am receiving, accepting, and absorbing the flame of cosmic Christ illumination from the very living presence of the God and Goddess Meru in the temple of illumination. O flame of light, bright and gold, O flame most wondrous to behold, I am in every brain cell shining, I am in light's wisdom all divining. Ceaseless flowing fountain of illumination flaming, I am illumination. O flame of light, bright and gold, O flame most wondrous to behold, I am in every brain cell shining, I am in light's wisdom all divining. Ceaseless flowing fountain of illumination flaming, I am illumination. O flame of light, bright and gold, O flame most wondrous to behold, I am in every brain cell shining, I am in light's wisdom all divining. Ceaseless flowing fountain of illumination flaming, I am illumination. O flame of light, bright and gold, O flame most wondrous to behold, I am in every brain cell shining, I am in light's wisdom all divining. Ceaseless flowing fountain of illumination flaming, I am illumination. O flame of light, bright and gold, O flame most wondrous to behold, I am in every brain cell shining, I am in light's wisdom all divining. Ceaseless flowing fountain of illumination flaming, I am illumination. O flame of light, bright and gold, O flame most wondrous to behold, I am in every brain cell shining, I am in light's wisdom all divining. Ceaseless flowing fountain of illumination flaming, I am illumination. O flame of light, bright and gold, O flame most wondrous to behold, I am in every brain cell shining, I am in light's wisdom all divining. Ceaseless flowing fountain of illumination flaming, I am illumination. O flame of light, bright and gold, O flame most wondrous to behold, I am in every brain cell shining, I am in light's wisdom all divining. Ceaseless flowing fountain of illumination flaming,
I am illumination. O flame of light, bright and gold, O flame of wondrous to behold. I am in every ray cell shining. I am in life's wisdom all divining. Ceaseless flowing found illumination flaming. I am illumination. And in full faith that comes to accept this manifest. And in full faith that comes to accept this manifest. And in full faith that comes to accept this manifest. Right here and now with full power, eternally sustained, all powerfully active, ever expanding world and full, till all are holy, ascended, the light and free. Beloved I am, beloved I am, beloved I am.
Let us take our ritual to the sun. Please establish your meditation in your heart. Visualize a whirling central sun disk, a white fire disk in your heart. You should also see the great sun disk placed over the solar plexus for the sealing of the desire body. And we call to the great central sun magnet to magnetize to the soul the true desirings of God for wholeness and the means to fulfill it in this octave. During this ritual, you can see the visualization of the sun in your heart, changing colors from golden yellow to pink, to the golden pink glow ray. And give this as giving it through the heart with intense love. It is by this ritual that we make our stamp upon this civilization, giving the understanding of the true sonship of every son and daughter and child of God. Sonship in the individualization of the Christ flame, the Christ image, and our holy Christ self. Even so, God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that through him the world might have eternal life. This is the light that lights our heart. Eternal life is in our hearts now by the grace of God. Out of this fount of everlasting life, we affirm, O God, that the great bread of life which came down from heaven to us in the person of Jesus Christ is the body today that is broken, even the body of the cosmic Christ, whereby each one of us has that individual presence, that holy Christ self and flame, which is our true identity in God. O God, through this ritual, magnify the Lord in all hearts where thou hast placed thy flame, that thy children everywhere might be drawn to the sun of the I am that I am. Great central sun ritual, O cosmic Christ, thou light of the world. O cosmic Christ, thou light of the world, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. O cosmic Christ, thou light of the world, thou art life, and thy life is the light of my being. Therefore I am the true witness of thy light, for thou art the true light which lighteth every manifestation of the Father, Mother, God that cometh into the world. Thou art the Word who was made flesh and dwelt among us, full of grace and truth in the Son, Jesus Christ. I am beholding the glory of my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, who is also with me in my beloved holy Christ self. O mighty presence of God, I am in and behind the sun. I welcome thy light which floods all the earth, into my life, into my mind, into my spirit, into my soul. Radiate and blaze forth thy light. Break the bonds of darkness and superstition. Charge me with the great clearness of thy white fire radiance. I am thy child, and each day I shall become more of thy manifestation. I am that I am. I am the light of the world. 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 O thou cosmic Christ, thou the empowerment of my sonship through Jesus Christ, I am born again, not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but I am born of God. For my Lord hath said to me, I am the resurrection and the life. He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. And whosoever liveth and believeth in me shall never die. Believest thou this? And I have said to him, Yea, Lord, I believe that thou art the Christ, the Son of God, which should come into the world. Make all light bearers of this world and cosmos one, in the spirit of the great white brotherhood. We are one in thy mystical body of the cosmic Christ. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world.
Helios and Vesta.
Helios and Vesta, Helios and Vesta, Helios and Vesta. Let the light flow into my being, let the light expand in the center of my heart, let the light expand in the center of the earth, and let the earth be transformed into the new day. Helios and Vesta, Helios and Vesta, Helios and Vesta. Let the light flow into my being, let the light expand in the center of my heart, let the light expand in the center of the earth, and let the earth be transformed into the new day. Helios and Vesta, Helios and Vesta, Helios and Vesta. Let the light flow into my being, let the light expand in the center of my heart, let the light expand in the center of the earth, let the earth be transformed into the new day. Helios and Vesta, Helios and Vesta, Helios and Vesta. Let the light flow into my being, let the light expand in the center of my heart, let the light expand in the center of the earth, and let the earth be transformed into the new day. Helios and Vesta, Helios and Vesta, Helios and Vesta. Let the light flow into my being, let the light expand in the center of my heart, let the light expand in the center of the earth, and let the earth be transformed into the new day. Helios and Vesta, Helios and Vesta, Helios and Vesta. Let the light flow into my being, let the light expand in the center of my heart, let the light expand in the center of the earth, and let the earth be transformed into the new day. In the name and in the footsteps of Jesus Christ, I am a son of God. I am come a light unto the world, that whosoever believeth on the cosmic Christ should not abide in darkness, but should have the light of life. Jesus Christ, the same yesterday and today and forever. Jesus Christ, the same yesterday and today and forever. Jesus Christ, the same yesterday and today and forever. Jesus Christ, the same yesterday and today and forever. Jesus Christ, the same yesterday and today and forever. Jesus Christ, the same yesterday and today and forever. Jesus Christ, the same yesterday and today and forever. Jesus Christ, the same yesterday and today and forever. Jesus Christ, the same yesterday and today and forever. We are the light of the world, our ashram that is set on the hill of the Lord Moria El cannot be hid.
Let us give on the yellow sheet, balance the threefold flame in me as you continue your meditation and visualization. Number 6, panel 9.
In the name of the beloved, mighty, victorious presence of God, I am in me, and my very own beloved holy Christ self. I call to beloved Helios and Vesta, and the threefold flame of love, wisdom, and power in the heart of the great central sun. To beloved Moria El, beloved Lord Lanto, beloved Paul the Venetian, beloved mighty victory, beloved goddess of liberty and the seven mighty Elohim, beloved Lanello, the entire spirit of the great white brotherhood and the world mother, elemental life, fire, air, water, and earth, to balance, blaze, expand, and intensify the threefold flame within my heart, until I am manifesting all of thee, and naught of the human remains. Take complete dominion and control over my 4 lower bodies, and raise me and all life by the power of the 3 times 3 into the glorious resurrection and ascension in the light. In the name of the Father, the Mother, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, I decree. Balance the threefold flame in me, balance the threefold flame in me, balance the threefold flame in me, beloved I am. Balance the threefold flame in me, balance the threefold flame in me, balance the threefold flame in me, take thy command. Balance the threefold flame in me, balance the threefold flame in me, balance the threefold flame in me, magnify it each hour. Balance the threefold flame in me. Balance the threefold flame in me. Balance the threefold flame in me. Love, wisdom, and power. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Beloved, I am. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Take thy command. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Magnify it each hour. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Love, wisdom, and power. Expand the threefold flame in me. Expand the threefold flame in me. Expand the threefold flame in me. Beloved, I am. Expand the threefold flame in me. Expand the threefold flame in me. Expand the threefold flame in me. Take thy command. Expand the threefold flame in me. Expand the threefold flame in me. Expand the threefold flame in me. Magnify it each hour. Expand the threefold flame in me. Expand the threefold flame in me. Expand the threefold flame in me. Love, wisdom, and power. Intensify the threefold flame in me. Intensify the threefold flame in me. Intensify the threefold flame in me. Beloved, I am. Intensify the threefold flame in me. Intensify the threefold flame in me. Intensify the threefold flame in me. Take thy command. Intensify the threefold flame in me. Intensify the threefold flame in me. Intensify the threefold flame in me. Magnify it each hour. Intensify the threefold flame in me. Intensify the threefold flame in me. Intensify the threefold flame in me. Love, wisdom, and power. Balance the threefold flame in me. Balance the threefold flame in me. Balance the threefold flame in me. Beloved, I am. Balance the threefold flame in me. Balance the threefold flame in me. Balance the threefold flame in me. Take thy command. Balance the threefold flame in me. Balance the threefold flame in me. Balance the threefold flame in me. Magnify it each hour. Balance the threefold flame in me. Balance the threefold flame in me. Balance the threefold flame in me. Love, wisdom, and power. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Beloved, I am. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Take thy command. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Magnify it each hour. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Love, wisdom, and power. Expand the threefold flame in me. Expand the threefold flame in me. Expand the threefold flame in me. Beloved, I am. Expand the threefold flame in me. Expand the threefold flame in me. Expand the threefold flame in me. Take thy command. Expand the threefold flame in me. Expand the threefold flame in me. Expand the threefold flame in me. Magnify it each hour. Expand the threefold flame in me. Expand the threefold flame in me. Expand the threefold flame in me. Love, wisdom, and power. Intensify the threefold flame in me. Intensify the threefold flame in me. Intensify the threefold flame in me. Beloved, I am. Intensify the threefold flame in me. Intensify the threefold flame in me. Intensify the threefold flame in me. Take thy command. Intensify the threefold flame in me. Intensify the threefold flame in me. Intensify the threefold flame in me. Magnify it each hour. Intensify the threefold flame in me. Intensify the threefold flame in me. Intensify the threefold flame in me. Love, wisdom, and power. Balance the threefold flame in me. Balance the threefold flame in me. Balance the threefold flame in me. Beloved, I am. Balance the threefold flame in me. Balance the threefold flame in me. Balance the threefold flame in me. Take thy command. Balance the threefold flame in me. Balance the threefold flame in me. Balance the threefold flame in me. Magnify it each hour. Balance the threefold flame in me. Balance the threefold flame in me. Balance the threefold flame in me. Love, wisdom, and power. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Beloved, I am. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Take thy command. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Magnify in each hour. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Blaze the threefold flame in me. Love, wisdom, and power. Expand the threefold flame in me. Expand the threefold flame in me. Expand the threefold flame in me. Beloved, I am. Expand the threefold flame in me. Expand the threefold flame in me. Expand the threefold flame in me. Take thy command. Expand the threefold flame in me. Expand the threefold flame in me. Expand the threefold flame in me. Magnify it each hour.
Expand the threefold flame in me, expand the threefold flame in me, expand the threefold flame in me, love, wisdom, and power. Intensify the threefold flame in me, intensify the threefold flame in me, intensify the threefold flame in me, beloved I am. Intensify the threefold flame in me, intensify the threefold flame in me, intensify the threefold flame in me, take thy command. Intensify the threefold flame in me, intensify the threefold flame in me, intensify the threefold flame in me, magnify it each hour. Intensify the threefold flame in me, intensify the threefold flame in me, intensify the threefold flame in me, love, wisdom, and power. Balance the threefold flame in me, balance the threefold flame in me, balance the threefold flame in me, beloved I am. Balance the threefold flame in me, balance the threefold flame in me, balance the threefold flame in me, take thy command. Balance the threefold flame in me, balance the threefold flame in me, balance the threefold flame in me, magnify it each hour. Balance the threefold flame in me, balance the threefold flame in me, balance the threefold flame in me, love, wisdom, and power. Blaze the threefold flame in me, blaze the threefold flame in me, blaze the threefold flame in me, beloved I am. Blaze the threefold flame in me, blaze the threefold flame in me, blaze the threefold flame in me, take thy command. Blaze the threefold flame in me, blaze the threefold flame in me, blaze the threefold flame in me, magnify it each hour. Blaze the threefold flame in me, blaze the threefold flame in me, blaze the threefold flame in me, love, wisdom, and power. Expand the threefold flame in me, expand the threefold flame in me, expand the threefold flame in me, beloved I am. Expand the threefold flame in me, expand the threefold flame in me, expand the threefold flame in me, take thy command. Expand the threefold flame in me, expand the threefold flame in me, expand the threefold flame in me, magnify it each hour. Expand the threefold flame in me, expand the threefold flame in me, expand the threefold flame in me, love, wisdom, and power. Intensify the threefold flame in me, intensify the threefold flame in me, intensify the threefold flame in me, beloved I am. Intensify the threefold flame in me, intensify the threefold flame in me, intensify the threefold flame in me, take thy command. Intensify the threefold flame in me, intensify the threefold flame in me, intensify the threefold flame in me, magnify it each hour. Intensify the threefold flame in me, intensify the threefold flame in me, intensify the threefold flame in me, love, wisdom, and power. And in full faith I consciously accept this manifest, manifest, manifest. And in full faith I consciously accept this manifest, manifest, manifest. And in full faith I consciously accept this manifest, manifest, manifest. Right here and now with full power, eternally sustained, all powerfully active, ever expanding in world and fold, until all are wholly ascended in the light and free. Beloved I am, beloved I am, beloved I am.
Please take out your notebooks. And a dweller on two planets. We have gotten past much of the descriptive elements in the book, and so we are into sections that require teaching and therefore more reading. So I'm going to be reading to you quite a bit this afternoon and commenting on what we are reading. This is chapter 4, entitled Axte Inko, Axtuse Mun. Anyone's guess is the correct pronunciation of those words? No one has heard Atlantean spoken. In their consideration of natural laws, the philosophers of Poseid had come to the conclusive hypothesis and working theory that the material universe was not a complex entity, but in its primality extremely simple. The glorious truth, Inkul Mali Extho, was clear to them, that is, that Inkul, God, is immanent in nature. To this they appended, Axte Inkul Axtuse Mun. To know God is to know all worlds whatsoever. After centuries of experimentations, recording of phenomena, deductions, analyzing, and synthesizing, these students had arrived at the final proposition that the universe, not here dwelling on their wondrous astronomical knowledge, was, with all its varied phenomena, created and continuously kept in operation by two primal force principles. Briefly stated, these basic facts were that matter and dynamic energy, which were Inkul made externally manifest, could readily account for all things else. This conception held that only one substance existed, and but one energy, the one being inkle externalized, and the other his life in action in his body. This one substance assumed many forms under the action of variant degrees of dynamic force. Because it was the basic principle of all natural and all psychic, but not of spiritual phenomena, allow here a postulate with which not a few of my friends will find themselves at least partially familiar, perhaps wholly so. Commencing with dynamic energy as first sensibly manifest in the example furnished by simple vibration, the poside position may be outlined as follows. A very low rate of vibration may be felt, an increase of rate heard. For example, first we feel the pulsing of a harp string, and then if the rate of vibration be increased, we hear its sound. But substances of other sorts able to endure greater vibratory impulses manifest under more intense action, following sound, first heat, then light. Now again light varies in color. The first color produced is red, and thence by a constantly augmentation vibratile energy, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Each spectrum band being due to an exact and definite increase in the number of the vibrations. Succeeding the violet, further augmentation gives pure white. More gives a gray, then more extinguishes light, replacing it with electricity, and so on through an ever-increasing voltage until the realm of vital or psychic force is attained. This may truly be regarded as going inward from those manifestations of nature, of Inkle or God or the Creator, which are external, as going toward the internal from externality. A very brief study will show thee that the laws of the physical world continue inward to their spiritual source, that they are truly but prolongations the one of the other. But ere entering into the realm of vibration, whose doorkeeper is sound, we find that the one substance vibrates in a variant but definite dynamic degree, and that thence arise each and all of the diverse forms of matter. In short, the difference between any given substances, as gold and silver, iron and lead, sugar and sand, is not one of matter, but of dynamic degree solely. It is from this point of view that the ascended masters and adepts and initiates regard matter. Do I weary thee, my friend? Bear yet a little longer, I pray thee, for it is an important matter. In this dynamic affection, the degree is no loose limitation, for if the vibratile rate be a shade variant, lower or higher than in any special material which may be under notice, the variation will be different in appearance and in its chemical nature. Thus, to proper substantial entities, definite, if enormous, vibration per second may be imparted, and the resulting substance, for light is substantial, is, say, red light. But if 1/8 greater, it will be orange, and if more or less, then the resultant must inevitably be a reddish orange or a yellowish, respectively. It thus appears that certain definite degrees exist as plainly as mileposts, and that these major degrees are absolute. In other words, the one substance is not as readily kept between these greater definitions as upon them, a fact which explains the tendency of composites or intermediate affections to decompose into the definite or simple elements. Chemical compounds are not as stable as chemical primaries. The modern wave theory that sound, heat, light, and correlatives are but forms of force is only half correct. They are this, but they are more also. They are, in brief, affections of the one substance by specific degrees of the one energy. And except that the rate of this affection is vastly greater in the case of electricity than in that of lead or gold, there is no difference between these widely diverse appearing things. This is the energy by the Rosicrucians named fire, that which gives entrance to that mysterious realm of nature penetrated only by the adept, thaumaturgist, magician. Call these students at whose will all nature bends obedient, by whatever name best pleases thee, only bearing in mind that the real magian never speaks of self or works, and is not known by his fellows to be what he is, save an accident hath revealed the secret. To this membership belonged he at whose command the winds and the waves were stayed on tempestuous Galilee. But he spoke not of himself. Of that sublime brotherhood I will relate much ere long. No better proof is needed that all the variant manifestations are but variants of the odic, O-D-I-C, the odic force, the Rosicrucian fire, than this. Offer resistance to an electric current, thereby reducing or diverting it against an opposing force, and thou hast light. Opposed to this arc light, a combustible obstruction, and flame results. So mightest thou go on to the discovery soon to be made by the world of science that light, all light of the sun, or from any source, can be made to yield sound. Upon this discovery hinge some of the most astounding inventions that thine age hath even dreamed of in its visions. But the primal discovery in this wonderful link, first of the sequence, will be the greatest of all, and so heralded. And this will be warranted, for the fact that it will be but a reincarnate unfoldment will not diminish its importance to mankind, nor the credit of its rediscoverer. In brief, the truths of our Father's kingdom are eternal, have ever been, will ever be existent, and only the discoverers themselves will be new to the fact not being a new one in itself, nor new even to the world, but only to this age of it. Poseid knew that light gives out sound when correctly resisted. It knew that magnetism gives rise to electricity in the same manner, and for the same reason. Thus the lodestone exhibits magnetism. Revolve it in the field of a dynamo, and so cut the current and pile it upon itself, so to speak, and electricity develops. So resist this, and light appears. This, and heat comes, again resisted properly, and sound results. Then next energy appears as pulsing motion. But these various processes may be short-circuited, and all of the intermediate phenomena cut out. Have I been wearisome in this discourse? If so, and I suspect that I have, the reward is at hand. The Poseidon found that in the realm beyond magnetism were yet other forces superior and more intense of pulsation, forces operated by the mind, and mind is of our Father, and is the constantly creating source of all things whatsoever, where the perpetual vis a tergo of divine creation to cease for one instant, in that instant the universe would cease to exist. Now wilt thou see the sublime reality of the Atlan postulate not long since repeated, Incul malixatho axte incul axtuse mun. Again, to repeat the meaning of those words. God is immanent in nature. To know God is to know all worlds whatsoever. For down from his heights, marking the descent by force falls, as a river marks declivities in its bed by cataracts, comes this supreme power, comes far, oh very far, adown its course to the cascades of magnetism, electricity, light, heat, sound, motion, and far off where the bed of this divine stream becomes nearly level, exhibits those little ripples of material differentiation which thou termest chemical elements, insisting on there being 63 when there is but one. What I have read thus far is a dissertation on the law of the one. The law of the one. Remember that the difference is made here is that there is one substance and one energy. The substance is God externalized. The energy is God's life in action in his body. We interpret the term the body of God to be the mystical body of God, we being his body. We are the embodiment of God as sons and daughters of God and as his children. One substance, one energy. Take the thought form of the great sun disk of Akhenaten, the ray coming forth, the hand in action symbolizing, I am the hand of God in manifestation. I am the manifestation of God. I am God in action. So we are the energy of God, but we are also the substance of God. And you can consider these two as Alpha and Omega, as the body and blood of Alpha and Omega and the body and blood of Christ. I shall read a couple of footnotes that are here because I think they are integral to this text. Page 61. As in its outgoing impulse, the created draws away from the creator, as the ray extends from the sun, and the conclusion of the ray is that flame at the plane of invocation that I explained. It is man, the manifestation. This created looks back to its origin and notes its progression marks, that is, its multiplied realizations of its increasing separation from its source. The greater this separateness, the greater the field, matter, wherein these points appear, because the divine element in the created has noted more points, or in other words, more things, more material objects, as being between it and its source. Only when we look back at these things we have sensed, these thought forms of God, do we perceive matter. For when we look forward to reunion with him, matter disappears, giving place to spirit. The other footnote is on page 62. Red light is stated to occur at 395 times 4 sets of zeros, vibrations of that ether, which by Phylos is termed the last form of matter, below where matter ceases and mind begins. And the highest visible light vibration is placed at 790 with 4 sets of 3 zeros. So says science. But Phylos says, vastly higher than the high purple range where light ceases ordinarily to be visible, the one substance again vibrates visibly. As a synchronous harp string that responds to key of low C, for example, struck on another harp, will also respond to every C in the whole register, be it low or middle or high. So the one substance responds at 831 with 4 zeros, 4 sets of 3 zeros, at again the next octave of vibration, and again at the next, where it becomes visible as the fatal unfed light, called in Atla the Maxin, M-A-X-I-N. And again by the chin as the vis mortuus. Now the flame of the Ark of the Covenant, which we invoke, which burns at the etheric octave on our altar, is the equivalent of the Maxin light. In the temple of Atlantis, it was enshrined by God and it was visible. And anything that was placed into it would be dissolved. And that is the manner in which individuals were cremated, simply placed in the Maxin light. So this is a cracking of the door into the concepts of Atlantean science, which begin with God as one substance and one energy, and all things being variants of that one substance and that one energy. When I was a very small child in this life, God showed me the truth of this very conception, and this is the first time I've ever seen it explained in print. I was aware that all things were separated from one another only by vibration, and that with the change of vibration, all creatures, vegetable life, mineral life, ourselves, were manifest. I suppose this was the unfettered mind, uncomplicated by education, simply knowing what it had also known. I would not be surprised if many of you have always known this yourselves. I'm continuing on page 64. From this knowledge came all the wondrous triumphs of that old age, and one by one they are emerging today after their long oblivion, till tomorrow they shall awake in crowds and press to rediscovery by 3s and 4s, and then by platoons and companies and legions, till all the treasures of Poseid shall be again on earth, in air and sea. O bright tomorrow of time, and fortunate thou who shalt open thine eyes upon it and its marvels. And yet although so fortunate, still shalt thou find it well behooves thee to temper all things by the Spirit, and not to let the march of physical discovery outstrip the advance of the soul. O sad shall be found any day wherein man approacheth the arcane treasury of his Father from the side of the blind physical eye. For if by this the whole world shall be gained, what shall it profit if it lose the soul? Having thus acquired insight into a new realm, if it be new to thee, let me ask and answer thou me, how explainest these things, these two great phenomena, heat and light? They are not easy to explain. Cold and darkness are not merely the absence of heat and light. Having given the basis thereof, now will I show a new philosophy. I have said that the Atlans recognized nature in its entirety to be deity externalized. Their philosophy asserted that force moved, not in straight lines, but in circles, that is, so as always to return into itself. If the dynamism operating the universe acts in circular progression, it follows that an infinity of increase in vibration possible to the one substance would be an untenable concept. There must be a point in the circle where extremes meet and run the round again, and this we find between cathodicity and magnetism. As vibration brought substance into the realm of light, it must carry it out. It does so. It conveys it into what the Poseidon termed navas, the night side of nature, where duality becomes manifest, cold opposing heat, darkness light, and where positive polarity opposes negative, all things antipodal. Cold is as much a substantial entity as heat, and darkness as light. There is a prism of 7 colors in each white ray of light. There is also a septuple prism of black entities in the blackest gloom. The night is as pregnant as the day. The Poseidon investigator thus became cognizant of wondrous forces of nature which he might bend to the uses of mankind. The secret was out, the discovery being that attraction of gravitation, the law of weight, had set over against it the repulsion by levitation, that the first belonging to the light side of nature and the second to Navas, the night side, that vibration governed the darkness and the cold. Thus Poseidon, like Job of old, knew the path to the house of darkness and the treasures of the hail, cold. Through this wisdom, Atlantis found it possible to adjust weight, positiveness, to lack of weight, negativeness, so evenly that no tug of war was manifest. This achievement meant much. It meant aerial navigation without wings or unwieldy gas reservoirs, through taking advantage of repulsion by levitation opposed in overmatching strength to the attraction of gravitation. That vibration of the one substance governed and composed all realms was a discovery which solved the problems of the conveyance of images of light, pictures of forms as well as of sound and heat, just as the telephone thou knowest so well conveys images of sound. Only in Poseidon no wires or other sensible material connection was required in the use, at whatever distance, of either telephones or telephotes, nor even in caloriveyance, that is, heat conduction. To digress a little, it is to the employment of the higher forces of the night side that seemingly magic feats of occult adepts, from the man of Nazareth down to the least yogi, are indebted for their possibility. Now let me close this chapter by saying that when modern science shall have seen its way to the acceptance of the Poseidonic knowledge herein outlined, physical nature will no longer possess any hidden recesses, any penetralia for the scientific investigator. Not earth, air, the depth of the seas, nor those of interstellar space will hold secrets from that man who approaches from the Godward side, as did Poseidon. I do not say that Atl knew the very all. It knew more than this day has yet uncovered, but not all. Yet the search commenced then by them might be continued now by thee. For America, my people, thou wert of Atlantis. Of either I can sing, my country 'tis of thee. We recognize what manner of science Saint Germain has given to this age, but we see how much more vast is the science that has been withheld until humanity's knowledge of the I am that I am should become commensurate with their understanding of the light and of the dark. Phylos recounts how the employment of the higher forces of the night side produced seemingly magic feats of occult adepts, from the man of Nazareth down to the least yogi. Saint Germain opens his studies in alchemy by describing how Jesus used these higher forces to walk on the water. Remember, he was a great, great Atlantean come again. Saint Germain writes what you probably have memorized in your hearts from studying this very passage. 2,000 years ago, when Christ walked upon the waters of the Sea of Galilee, his demonstration was a manifestation of the natural law of levitation, operating within an energy framework of cohesion, adhesion, and magnetism, the very principles which make orbital flight possible. The light atoms composing the body of Christ absorbed at will an additional quantity of cosmic rays and spiritual substance whose kinship to physical light made his whole body light, thereby making it as easy for him to walk upon the sea as upon dry land. His body was purely a ray of light shining upon the waters. The most dazzling conception of all was his ability to transfer this authority over energy to Peter through the power of Peter's own vision of the Christ in radiant, illumined manifestation. By taking his eyes temporarily from the Christ, however, Peter entered a human fear vibration and vortex, which immediately densified his body, causing it to sink partially beneath the raging seas. The comforting hand of Christ, extended in pure love, reunited the alchemical tie, and the flow of spiritual energy through his hand raised Peter once again to safety. If it is the truth that light atoms composing the body of Christ absorbed at will an additional quantity of cosmic rays, why don't you, when you are walking in the woods or on the snow, or by a river or by the sea, meditate upon God in the central sun and call for an additional quantity of cosmic rays and spiritual substance to be added to the atoms composing your four lower bodies? Why don't you make a specific invocation to increase and intensify the light in the cells of your four lower bodies? This light within you will begin to manifest as an equalization, whereby you have an affinity or a fine tie with the light of the sun and the spiritual light of your presence. The increased light will cause there to take place in you, for instance, greater immunity to disease, greater resistance to the astral substance of the planet. Why? Because scientifically speaking, you will be vibrating at a higher rate. You can make the call for your Holy Christ self to be placed over you. In Buddhist terminology, this is the Sambhog Kaya. You do not need to wait for a special course in this. You have all the dynamic decrees, the teaching, and the understanding and the love of God, the desire to be all light. Simply give the call and the decree to him with the sense that you are his beloved, you are in love with God. God desires to increase the light within you, and ask him to do it to the capacity for which you are ready. Your success in this adventure is based on your harmony, your love of God, and your remembrance that if there is only one substance and one energy, that you are a part of all life, and you cannot in any way hold resentment, revenge, a sense of retaliation, envy, jealousy, ignorance, and above all, hardness of heart, the unmerciful heart toward anyone. So when you have nothing in you that resists or takes exception to something else in life, because you are all love and you are only tying into all love that is everywhere, you will begin to accomplish the cities of which Listening Angel spoke to us, the powers of God by love. As soon as you have that resistance to someone or something within yourself, because you are cutting yourself off to that person, you are also cutting yourself off to the infinite light. So this brings up the quandary of how should one feel in one's being toward those who attack the church and are out to destroy the church. You should consider them as numbers on a blackboard, equations on a blackboard, if you will, as energy. You should acknowledge in your being that they have embraced not merely the night side of energy, but a negative qualification of both the light side and the night side. You should understand that it is they who have set themselves apart from the entire cosmos of God's love and God's manifestation. You should wrap them in ruby ray, or in blue flame, or in light, as you would wrap a contaminated chemical spill, radioactive fallout. Radioactive fallout is but a harmful manifestation of what is the energy of God. To recognize that something is harmful, but to do so dispassionately, without anger, without fear, without any more sense of it than this is a person who has chosen to be a conglomerate of, shall we say, misnomered or misapplied or misconjoined numbers. They are off in vibration. You wrap them in light and set them aside. But you do not have a reactive sense inside of you. From your heart pours the mercy flame. If God wills it, it will either consume the wrongdoing or the wrongdoer and his wrongdoing. It is up to God, Elohim, and the cosmic Christ to deal with the so-called or self-styled enemy. As long as we have oneness with God and the absolute trust of our deliverance, God can send tremendous light through us to correct those conditions. But if we are in other levels of human consciousness regarding a wrongdoer, then you see we are but limiting ourselves, and surely, as God lives, we are fastening ourselves to that one by our sense that that is a wrongdoer. And obviously then, we are in a certain type of relationship to that person, and God cannot increase our light because now we are tied to a lower vibration. This is something that it is very important to master. It cannot be mastered without the merciful heart and the love in your heart. Jesus could not have done this if he hated Satan, if he hated Lucifer, or if he hated anyone who had wronged him. So forgiveness is not to dissolve the cause, effect, record, and memory of the wrongdoer and his wrongdoing, but it is that we have nothing in us whereby that wrongdoer and his wrongdoing may enter us, may be tied to us, may affect us, may come into our lives. I ask you to work on this for your adeptship. You are all potential adepts. Even as the Buddhists say, you are all potential Buddhas. When you decide to become your potential is clearly up to you. God has never postponed the day. Only we have. Remember that. Therefore, visualize yourself as a ray of light, a pure ray of light, shining upon the waters of the entire sea of the matter cosmos. If you think of yourself as that ray of light, it is a very powerful exercise. When you take Alchemy 1 and you hear these teachings and you immediately make them practical in application in your visualization, your meditation, your affirmations, you see things start happening in your life, and above all, you become more centered and more peaceful. In telling of the proud advancements of Atlantis, emerging one by one today, Phylos says, "Yet although so fortunate, still shalt thou find it well behooves thee to temper all things by the Spirit, and not to let the march of physical discovery outstrip the advance of the soul. The allure of technology to the neglect of true spiritual advancement has been the downfall of civilizations." Saint Germain addressed the problem of how excessive materialism is jeopardizing the progress of souls in today's society in his August 29, 1982 dictation. He described how a golden age could be lost when individuals become distracted by outer things and phenomena. We will hear that now, and please take notes. Thus the guarding of the secrets of knowledge is the trust
of priests and priestesses of the sacred fire. And now you can understand why the culmination of thousands of years of civilization should be the seventh ray itself. For the scientist on the seventh ray is truly the priest at the altar of the sacred fire. Only by the art of alchemy, only by the violet flame, and much, much more, can that which is given be raised to that point of the fire of the Christ, where materialism itself does not drag down the soul and encase it in a tomb of death, but rather materialism, being the mater realization of the God flame, the mother realization and internalization of light, is there to exalt the soul and literally sweep it up, that it might be caught into the arms of the Divine Father. Thus we build for a spiritual building, and not as the Nimrods of old. The competitive nature of civilization, having its goal in and of itself and no farther beyond, does not advance, but rather detracts from the forward progress of the light of the man-child. Once upon a time in Lemuria, the people understood the balance of fire, of spiritual things, the reality of the heart, and the tangibility of the concrete world. As you may well realize, in some inner understanding that you have of day-to-day life and the balance that is necessary, you can imagine how easy it would be to lose the sense of the spirit itself being the flame within the matter bowl. After all, when the flame becomes invisible to some, and yet they see the machine moving on, it continues to operate. The human body as a machine functions, and so do the computers and the scientific inventions of the day. It is easy to conclude that once a physical creation is sealed, there is no need for the spiritual fire. And thus, believe it or not, the balance of such a civilization of a golden age can literally be lost in moments, moments of descent that are experienced simultaneously as individuals become distracted by outer things and phenomena. We therefore have directed you to first cause, and cause is behind the matter form, to your soul, to your spirit, to the solar fire of your heart. We have guided you to come apart, to rest your eyes from all of the psychic and physical phenomena of the world, to rest your senses and your ears. See how quickly you become aware of the absence of civilization, and in one sense, desire to return. But if you pause for a moment and ask yourself, what will I have there that I do not have here? You will discover that most things that you have are human habit, things that you think you need, and that you do need once you enter the roller coaster of outer civilization. It's like the old story, all for a rag. The necessity of the accoutrements of life for the sustaining of the simple cloth of the yogi. Thus, once you enter the workaday world, many requirements are upon you, and then all things become necessary, and it is as though you are in a place where everything is offered to you, the food of the world, the prizes of the world. And are you the saint that goes and sprinkles holy water everywhere, refusing to partake of it, and suddenly the whole of it disappears, and you find yourself once again self-satisfied in God. Well, in this land itself, for the moment, it has all disappeared, and you see only a few tents and what has been brought from without. It is good to rest the soul. It is good to rest the mind. And it is also good to realize that I also appreciate civilization in the highest sense. For after all, my work in my final embodiment as Francis Bacon did bring to the world the opening of all of this innovation. And I did lay the foundation for a golden age which would include every possible amenity and invention to enhance men's self-awareness and perception of life. Think not that I am down on civilization, but I must say that the world has brought our age of inventiveness down until so much of matter is burdened by sensuality and godlessness and idolatry and blasphemy and desecration of the mother light and the sacred fire, that it is difficult not to associate the walls of the buildings themselves with the murders that are committed on the sidewalks without. Therefore, we understand why the scientist must be priest and the priest must be scientist. Why the devotee must have a labor that is only worthwhile if it is sacred unto God. Why the goal must be defined. Why you must know that the calling for the miracle from my heart will not be withheld when you call for it to the glory of God and not your own self-satisfaction. Therefore, let us see what we may work together.
There follow some descriptions of Phylos' activities, his life in Kaiful, and I ask you to read those for yourself, and we will continue with page 70. It was customary with all newcomers in the city to make a visit to the Agako Palace and gardens as early as might be convenient after their arrival. 2 hours in each week, the Rai, emperor, sat in the reception hall, and during these 2 hours visitors thronged the corridors and passed in double ranks before the throne. After this ceremony, all who chose were free to wander unrestricted through the gardens, visit the menagerie, where every known species of animal was kept, or to go through the Grand Museum or the Royal Library. With many, it was a pleasurable custom to frequently spend the day at the Agako, on which occasions lunches were brought and a quiet picnic held under the great trees beside Fountain Lake or Cataract. I must now return to that time when my mother and myself were wholly unfamiliar with city usages, in order that the reader may accompany us through scenes of novelty. Let us begin with a visit to Agako. An acquaintance at that moment gained guided us to the palace, taking us with himself in a car into which he ushered us. At this time, these cars were a novelty to me, and consequently their manipulation became a subject upon which to inform myself. Our friend took a small coin from his purse and dropped it into an aperture in a glass-fronted box at one end of the car. The coin could not miss falling in such a way as to rest in the bottom of a glass cylinder, a very little greater in diameter than the money itself. 2 metal points which projected into the lower end of the cylinder, but did not approach each other nearer than 1/4 of an inch, were in the bottom of the tube. When the coin fell upon these, a little bell rang, and our friend then raised a lever in the carriage, which lever had a lock bar over it until the bell rang. This bar had, with the closing of the circuit by the coin, automatically slipped back at the same time, ringing the bell as above noted, thus releasing the lever. When the latter was raised, the car moved suddenly but easily out of the station. It swung from its overhead rail, only the peripheries of its large suspensory wheels being visible, for together with their axles they were mostly hidden by a long metal case which extended from one wheel to the other, and within which a low humming whir could be heard, a sound produced by the mechanism of the motory apparatus. The plan of making the passenger do duty as engineer and conductor also was a good one, seeing that the processes required so little knowledge or trouble. As we left the car at the main entrance depot below Agaco Terrace, our friend replaced the lever, the bell rang again, the coin dropped from sight into a strong box underneath, and the vehicle was ready for other passengers. At the grand entrance, a gate which was a marvel of architectural beauty, our friend bade us adieu, entered a car which hung from another track and was soon disappearing at lightning speed to some yet more distant destination. Glancing at the directory which hung above that particular line, I saw that it bore the legend in Poseid characters, Agak, Monink Sus, that is, City Front and Grand Canal, to make a free translation. Wishing to inform myself concerning our friendly guide, I asked someone who had interestedly watched the arrival of our little party who the gentleman was. The reply was given: "A great preacher who foretells the destruction of this continent, and bids all men so live that they will not fear to meet one who, he says, is the son of Inkle, who shall come upon the earth in days yet very far off. He says that this Son of God shall be the Savior of mankind, but that many shall not know him until he shall have been put to death. 12 shall know him, but one of them will deny him in the hour of his last peril. Indeed, it is a subject of very exceeding interest, albeit one I do not very well understand. Yet as Rai Wallen, Inkle, be good to him, showeth this preacher all favor, and saith of him, he speaketh verities, therefore is he attentively received by everyone." Reader, even at that far past age of the world, truth was dawning, and this in the morning of the cycle was a first ray of the bright sun of Christianity, the orb which even yet is not arisen in the fullness of its glory. I had that morning ridden in the same car with the first prophet who announced the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ, exhorting all of his hearers so to live that their souls might be turned as virgin soil to the rising sun of truth, and thereby be made ready to receive the Master when after the death of their possessed corporeal bodies they had returned to earth from Devakan as reincarnated souls. Sowing the seed by the wayside, it fell on me when at somewhat later period I heard the prophet speak in impassioned eloquence to the specially assembled Zioquithli students. I know it fell on fallow soil when I compare my life now with the lives past. Yet for long the seed lay dormant, and while it did so, the bitter experiences of sin and error arose and swept my life outward on a wave of scorching fire, which required another incarnation to heal the scars it left. As we stood beneath the portal at the grand entrance to Agaco, we, unsophisticated mountaineers, could not know, when a uniformed guide accosted us, that the emperor on his throne half a mile distant was in that same moment perfectly aware of our personal appearance and also of the very words we used and our tones. To me the soldier said, "And thou, whence comest, and what is thy name?" "I am called Zalim Numinos, and come from Querdno Aru." "This visit, is it thy first, or hast thou previously been here?" "Not ere this, neither I nor my parent here by my side." "So I will provide thee a conductor. Thou wilt find him at yonder gateway. One more question, and it please thee. Thy mission in Kaiful." "I am come to study Zayach in the Inithlan. My mother doth purpose to keep our house." "'Tis well. Thou mayest go." This colloquy occurred at the great portal giving entrance to the terrace above. The sentry sat behind a richly wrought gate of bronze, metal, and gold, very slight, but all sufficient to bar unwelcome progress. At his back was a large mirror in the heavy arch of the portal. This reflector was suspended by 2 burnished copper rods in such a manner as to prevent it from touching the side of the niche at any point. Could I have looked behind it, I would have seen an arrangement of metallic cords much resembling those of a piano, together with much other mechanism which at the time would have meant nothing to my untutored mind. How was I to suspect that this brightly polished metal sheet in which, as in a calm lake, the whole interior of the archway was reflected, was an ingenious automatic messenger? that some one of the myriad wires behind it was vibrant to every possible inflection of the voice or to any sound whatever, and that when I spoke, every briefest sound I uttered was sped along the natural earth currents which sprang from nature's night side, responsive to the control of man and heard by the Rai on his throne. No more did I dream that simultaneously with this telltale, our imaged reflection which was likewise conveyed to the same august presence. But such were the facts. A few steps brought us to an inner gate made of fenestrated iron plates, which upon the pressing of a button at the side arose between standards to give passage beneath. At this point we found the guide whom the guard had provided. I deemed his silence an indication of gruffness, not knowing that he had received orders ere we came unto him, which directed him to conduct us to the royal presence and needed from us no repetition of our wishes. His quiet remark, "I understand," when I began to tell him what we desired, prevented more words on my part, for I felt a sense of injured pride at his reserve, so different from the freedom of my mountain associates, and there were so many of these haughty city people. I determined to give this man a lesson and considered how I might best let him know that I thought his manner overbearingly out of place for one in his station. That he already possessed all necessary information concerning us I did not imagine, since if the distance from his post to the outer gate was not great, it was obviously too far for our low-spoken tones to have been heard. The unsuspected mirror had done its work here also, although we knew it not. "Come," said the haughty fellow, "I will conduct thyself and mother." Mother, I thought. How does the fellow know that one so fair and so young-looking is my mother? She might be my sister or even my wife, for aught he knows to the contrary. The supposed presumption of the man nettled me, for I was proud not only of my mother's youthful appearance, but also of my own fondly fancied mature looks. I had not infrequently been told that I looked 7 or 8 years older than I really was. Had the foolishness of such a pride in my personal appearance been fairly presented to me instead of feeling an ill-defined resentment at a seeming presumption, I would have laughed at its absurdity and put it aside as unworthy of one having such high-aimed ambition. As it was, it merely resulted in stiffness of demeanor as a retaliation for the imagined overbearance, and mostly to my own detriment, caused somewhat of an obliviousness to sights and surroundings I had better had noted at the time. Though I did not laugh then by reason of the obtuse view caused by my ignorance, I have laughed since as I look back over the record of the past. So many thousand years as have since elapsed may make it seem laughter at long range, but "'tis better late than never" fitly applies here. We seated ourselves as directed in a car of lighter build than those used on the public avenues, and also of a different shape. It was not until we were fairly in motion that I realized how absolutely different was its construction and propulsive method. Well used as I wished to appear to all these novel things, I gave a telltale start when the conductor touched a lever and the vehicle rose into the air like a soap bubble, steadied itself, and then darted up the incline to the edge of the level ground surrounding the palace. Here we left the cigar-shaped vehicle and entered a car which ran upon rails. When we were again in motion, we made a half-circuit of the building and then shot across the plateau directly into the dark, yawning mouth of one of the great stone serpents. Instead of ascending at the same angle as did the body of the reptile, our car glided along a horizontal plane. As we entered, a sudden illumination lit up the gloom where an instant previous all had been darkness. From this pleasant surprise, my attention was attracted to the brilliancy of the walls about us, which seemed to flame with red, blue, green, yellow, and all other tinted flashes of fire, so that I can find no simile more fitting than comparison to the sunlit dews on the myriad webs of morning lawn spiders. I forgot my own haughtiness and asked concerning the cause of this dazzling effect, and was answered that the masons had finished the walls with a mortar in which colored grains of glass had been incorporated. In the midst of our admiration, our horizontal progress ceased, and I saw that we were at the bottom of a sort of well, around the sides of which the track coiled in upward spirals, until it seemed to cease just beneath a ceiling vaguely visible from the light cast upward by ourselves, as we swiftly circled the incline. As we came directly beneath the ceiling, a sweet-toned bell rang twice, and immediately afterward the entire ceiling slid noiselessly aside, allowing our carriage to pass through. Behind us, the well again closed automatically, and we found ourselves in a splendid apartment of which the size was not apparent owing to the many swinging screens of carmine silk, the royal color, as well as the foliage plants which made miniature sylvan vistas, the flowers and songbirds, the fountains and perfumed air with a cool shade after the heat outside, for we had not been long enough in the elevator well to become cool. All made what seemed a paradise. The ceiling of this great room was visibly only here and there, being in most places hidden by pendant vines. Through all this harmony of vision, trembling in the air, over, under, around about, were sounding entrancing musical cadences, to which, as to an inspiration, the birds replied in rivaling chorus. In and out amongst this Edenic scene of color, sound, and scent, past choice statues and fairy graceful fountains, our car glided with a noiseless speed, which from its even motion aided the illusion that we remained still, and all the vision of delight shifted about us as about a center. And this was a marriage of art and of science. From their union sprang the fair dream, a triumph of human skill and knowledge. In every direction cars were coming, going, or at rest, containing people dressed as for a gala day, the various distinguishing colors of their turbans denoting their social rank. Poseid, like other countries then and since, had its social castes, as the governmental, the literati, the ecclesiastics, the artisans, a limited military which served as a police and sanitary corps, and so on, through the usual familiar list. The apparel of all classes was fashioned in the same general style until it came to the headdress. All of the people wore turbans, which article of raiment differed in color according to caste. Thus the turban of the sovereign was of pure carmine-hued silk, of the councillors a wine red, and of lesser officials a pale pink. The turbans of the soldiery were deep orange for the ranks and lemon chrome for the officers. Pure white marked the priesthood, and gray the scientific, the literary, and the artistic classes. Blue distinguished the artisans, mechanics, and laborers, while green denoted all who, for any reason, either immaturity or educational lack, did not enjoy the right of suffrage. Notwithstanding that these caste indices were strictly adhered to, they resulted in good rather than otherwise, for caste conceits did not find place among those who wore any color but green, since dignity of labor was a feeling of such vigor that there was no envy of one class by another. As for those who perforce wore the green, those who did so because of not having come to their years of majority would grow out of the color, while those who lacked sufficient education to entitle them to another hue felt the stigma attaching to their grade to be a reason for extra efforts to attain a more honorable station in life. While I had been studying the various topics presented for thought, our car was deftly made to avoid a collision with that of a lady who came swiftly onwards, apparently heedless of her course, while she was putting in place a loose end of her gray turban, showing as she did so the flashing rays from a ruby, a gem that only royalty might wear. Our car wheeled into an augmenting procession of carriages and presently carried us into a second apartment. But the royal maiden of the gray turban and ruby, my thoughts were still with her. How radiant was her beauty! 'Twas my first sight of the princess Anzime, but I must not anticipate. The apartment into which we were now come was smaller than the one we had just left, but yet of no mean extent. Everything here was of brilliant flashing carmine, except an elevation in the center of the room. This was of circular black marble steps or small terraces, the top, which was 12 feet across, being surmounted by a dais of some dark wood upholstered in black velvet. It should here be remarked that black was a representative hue and included the symbolism of all colors, thus denoting, as used on the throne, that he who sat there belonged to every class. And this was the fact, since Rai Wallen was not only sovereign and chief of the army, one of the high priests, a literate, scientist, artist, and musician, but was also well acquainted with the duties of artisans and machinists. We remember Plato's description of the requirement for the philosopher king. In front of the silver railing which surrounded the throne, our carriage stopped out to one side of the moving line, obedient to a gesture of the emperor. The guide bade us alight, and opening a little gate, directed us to ascend the steps of the dais to the feet of the Rai. My heart beat fast as I obeyed, and though pale with causeless trepidation, I had myself well under control to offer the support of my arm to my mother, and I think I never walked more proudly erect in my life. At the top of the steps we knelt and waited the command to rise again, nor had we long to wait. As we rose, Rai Wallen said quietly, "Zalem, thou art young for a student so ambitious as I know thee to be." "If it please thee to have me so, I am happy," I made reply. "Hast thou learned what the primary schools for the young have to teach? For this must be ere thou couldst gain admission to Inithlon." "I have done even so, Rai. May it please thee, Zalem, to confide to me what studies thou dost chiefly prefer." "So, Rai, I count it an honor to speak. Of my own fancy I have not chosen any studies, yet I do not doubt that Inkel himself ordered my preference, indicating geology above all else. Also he hath given me a natural disposition which, if I consult, points that I study languages and literature. I am not yet decided, but think well of these branches of Zayach. But geology he directed through a wild experience. Thou dost interest me, lad. Yet this is an hour of state duties, and I must not neglect my people who come before me to pay respects to their monarch. Take therefore this pass, and at the 4th hour come again to the portal at which thou didst enter at the Agako. I bid thee welcome. I took the present, and on my way down the steps of the marble terrace saw that it bore the inscription, Rise Presents, Permit Bearer. We had with us a packet of dates and pastries, and were therefore under no necessity of leaving the gardens for luncheon. Our guide took us again in charge, and after learning that we desired to remain within the grounds about the palace, threaded our conveyance through the mazes of the building once more, letting us out from the carriage beside one of the pillars of the peristyle. From the point where we alighted and where we parted from the guide, I looked about to ascertain the direction of the grand entrance, and seeing that it was in the east, I escorted my mother to a seat under the shade of a giant deodar, or as they were called in after centuries, cedars of Lebanon. On a bough overhead sat a mockingbird, or as we call them, a nosuri, signifying songster of the moonlight, in reference to the habit of these lovely gray-coated birds to fill all the still moonlit air of night with their wondrous melody. Not that they do not sing by day, indeed, the bird was even then singing, but the naming these nosuri from gnosis, the moon, and surada, I sing, was a distinctive Poseid ornithological term. At the appointed hour we went to the place designated, and presenting the passport were shown into a conveyance, and after again ascending the eminence, the guide ushered us into a small apartment of most luxurious appointments. By a table almost hidden by books sat the Rai, listening to a well-modulated voice, which was relating the latest news of the day, but the owner of which was not visible. The Rai turned as the usher announced us, dismissed the servitor, and bade us a fair eventide. Then he turned to a case shaped something like that pleasing instrument, the modern music box, and turned a key in it with a soft snap. On the instant, the voice of the unseen speaker ceased in the middle of a word, and I knew as we complied with our sovereign's request to be seated, that I had for the first time heard one of the vocal news records of which I had so frequently read. During the ensuing hour, I related the story of my life, its hopes, sorrows, triumphs, and ambitions, in answer to the questions of the genial yet not seemingly old man, to whom any living person might pay homage and suffer no loss of dignity, because his regal courtesy showed how very manly a king, or how kingly a man, might be. I told how each new fact had but added to my appetite for yet greater knowledge. Then I recounted the experiences of my trip to the summit of rock, a recital interrupted as I made mention of the name of the mountain. Rock, exclaimed the imperial listener, dost thou mean to tell me that thou didst ascend that awful height in the night alone, a mountain which all our maps assert to be inaccessible except to Velx? Perhaps, Zorai, that the only route was known to but a few of us mountaineers. I have read that it was thought inaccessible, but... I hesitated, whereat the Rai said quickly, Yea, speak. 'Twas to judge of thee that I have listened to thy recital, for well do I know all thou hast told me. I could have told it ere thou didst, and can tell all the rest thou wilt say. I have desired to hear thee, to judge of thee. Thy story I have known ever since I saw thee first. I am a son of the solitude, he added. I was silent, for the thought abashed me, that he already knew all. Seeing this, he said, Go on, my son, tell me all. I wish it from thy lips, for I am interested in thee for thyself. Thereupon I resumed the interrupted narration and described my rendition of homage to Inkel and the petition for his aid, his quick granting of my prayer, then of the eruption of the volcano and the peril in which it had placed me. At this the Rai remarked, Then thou wert eyewitness to that outburst of the terrene forces. I have been told that it wrought great local changes, and that there is now a lake of extensive size where before none was, at the foot of rock. It is 9 vens across. I was still unsophisticated enough not only to be curious as to whether the Rai had seen the eruption, for I did not understand the significance of his being a son of the solitude. And as to his knowing about all my adventures, though I did not doubt that to be a fact, I took it to be due to a keen judgment of possibilities that this knowledge was his. But as an addition to my unsophistication, I asked the Rai if he had seen these things. Artless youth, said the monarch, smiling, I do not often find so frank a person. Thou art indeed a son of the mountains. But thou wilt not long remain thus, I fear me, in this thy present environment. I will answer thy question even as thou askest. Know then that no large convulsion of nature can occur that is not immediately automatically recorded, both as to its approximate extent and its location, and a photic exhibition of every portion of the affected locality shown forth afresh from instant to instant. All I had in this case to do to see this depiction was to go into the proper office which is in this building, and there the whole scene was before me quite as vividly as it could have been to thee, for I was able to see the outburst and also to hear it by means of the Naim, N-A-I-M. Truly what I saw lacked one element which doubtless made it a little more vivid to thee than to me, that of bodily peril. But as to me, this element was nil. Thou wilt some day know why. Therefore the scene lacked for me no element that presence could have added. I marveled greatly to learn of such instrumentalities concerning which Rai Wallen had informed me, and pondered with delight the prospect that I also might some day personally know and have access to them. The Rai resumed. Thou saidst that thou didst find treasure of native gold in two separate places. Didst thou ever seek to recover that which thou didst obtain before the eruption occurred? No? It matters little. Zalem, it is said that ignorance of the law is not valid excuse for its infraction. The demeanor of the Rai had become one of great gravity, and I felt a foreboding not at all agreeable. Still I am convinced that thou didst know nothing of the involved violation of the statutes when thou didst fail to report the finding of the treasure. I shall not therefore punish thee, but... Here the emperor paused, lost in thought, while I, not till then aware that I had done anything wrong in the view of the law, paled so visibly with apprehension that Wallen smiled a little and said, But they who now work this mine and they who receive the gold dust and ore shall not so escape. With them it is conscious crime, made worse in that they not only ignore the statute, but do also defraud thee. Of thee I will require only so much expiation as may be in demanding their names of thee. This command I perforce obeyed, yet thought with regret of the wives and children of the culprits. Innocent these, must they suffer likewise with the real transgressors. The Rai seemed to know my thoughts, or if he did not, he at least spoke in accord, asking, Have then these men wives, families? Yes, it is true, I replied, so earnestly that once again the monarch smiled, and encouraged, I begged him to be lenient for the sakes of the innocent. Knowest thou aught of our punitive system, Zalem? Very little, Rai. I have heard that no malefactor ever comes from the hand of justice without being better, but I imagine the treatment to be very severe. As to severity, no, and as to the other, if men are made better who have erred, so they will not be apt to again err. Would not that redound to the advantage of the families of the criminals? Behold, I will have these men brought before the proper tribunal, and thou shalt see the process of reformation. Methinks thou wilt thereafter desire to learn anatomy and the science of reformatory punishment as an addition to thine other studies in Zio. Furthermore, I assure thee that thou shalt in no case suffer confiscation of that mine, but shalt possess it, and if thou wilt give it to the national treasury while thou art a student, thou shalt in no wise feel a lack of money. Afterward, when the years of study have passed over thy head, if thou art successful as a student, lo, then will I make thee superintendent of that mine. And if thou dost so use as to prove thyself faithful over its few things, I will make thee master over many things. I have spoken. Rai Wallen touched a service button, whereupon an attendant entered, to the guidance of whom he entrusted myself and mother, bidding us, Inkle's peace be with you both. So ended an audience which influenced the course of years and bent life's great twig, making me feel a proud consciousness of being a repository of the trust of a revered friend, a consciousness which has ever proven most potent in this world of trials and temptations. I would like to ask you to read for yourselves the pages from 83 to 86, where I will pick up again at the bottom third of the page, 86. This sudden elevation of Zalem to the presence of the emperor was his opening into a world where he found his twin flame, he found his karma, he found his initiations, and he found his elevation to positions of prominence in the government. I should say that his call and his vow, which he made in the beginning, was also connected to his karma. For deep within the recesses of his soul, he understood that he must come in contact with such people in order to balance past karma, and in order to enter a new phase of his life. And that phase of his life was to be a path with his twin flame. But as we shall see, his exercise of his free will prevented that from happening. So we begin again at page 86. The glories and marvels of Atlantis the Great were not in vain. Thou and I, reader, lived then and before then. The glories of those long-dead centuries seen by us have been enshrined in our souls and made us much, aye, most of what we are, influenced our acts, soothed us with their beauty. What then, though the forms of the dim, mysterious past are effaced from all existence, save in the record of the great book of life, the soul? Their influence lives and forever. Shall we not then strive that our labors may ennoble, may live in soul and in spirit, and be looked back upon by ourselves and others, even as I here look back upon the record of my dead but ever-living past? It is a great joy thus to have attained the eminences of the spirit which enable me to scan the history of lives from which I passed through the portal of the grave. Lives which now I am returned to gaze upon through the eyes of a different personality, a personality strung, greatest one of a chain, like pearls upon a thread, teaching me, I am I. Smoky some of these pearls, black others, or white or pink, aye, some are even red. Could tears add to their number, I would have more, oh, so many more, for the white ones are so few, and the smoky, the black, and the red so many. But my pearl of great price is my last life. Of white is it, and by my master was it cut cruciform. When he gave it to me, he said, "It is done." Verily so. It marks the junction of finity with infinity. So is it the period set to all time for me. Save I elect. At the bottom of page 87. I have said that we believed in Incal and symbolized him as the sun god, but the sun itself was an emblem. To assert that we, despite our enlightenment, adored the orb of day would be as absurd as to say that the Christians adore the cross of the crucifixion for itself. In both cases, it is the attached significance that caused the sun and causes the cross to be held in any sort of regard. Bottom of 88. In our monotheism, we differed little from the religion dominating the Hebraic civilization. We recognize no divine trinity, nor any Christ spirit, neither any Savior except the endeavor to do the best we knew in the sight of Incal. We considered all mankind as the sons of God, not any one mysteriously conceived person as solely his son. Miracle was an impossible thing, for all things were deemed rationally referable to uncontravenable law. But the Poseidon did believe that Inca, or Incal, had once lived in human form upon the earth, and had cast off the gross body of the world to assume that of unfettered spirit. He had in that time created mankind, and as the Poseidon were evolutionists, that word mankind embraced all the lower animals too. In course of time, beings of the genus Homo were evolved, one man and one woman, and then Incal had placed woman spiritually highest and above man, a position which she had lost through an attempt to enjoy a fruit which grew on the tree of life in the garden of heaven. But in doing this, she had, according to the legend, disobeyed Incal, who had said that his highest, most progressed children should not enjoy this fruit, for whosoever did should surely die, because no mortal being could have immortal life, and also reproduce its kind. The legend read, I have said unto my creatures, attain perfection and study it evermore, and such is endless life. But whoso enjoyeth this tree cannot contain self. The form of punishment meted out was the rationalistic, as the woman's attempt was to attain forbidden pleasures, and she did not, uninstructed, know how. Her hand slipped from its grasp on the fruit, and its side was torn out, so that its seed dropped on the earth and became flint stones, while the fruit still adhered to the tree and became of the likeness of a great fiery serpent, whereof the breath scorched the hands of the culprit. Feeling the pain, she let go her hold on the tree of life, falling prone upon the earth, and never fully recovering from the injury. Thus man became the superior being through the development of his nature, by the necessity he was under of preserving his mate and himself from the cold and kindred conditions which came along with the flintstones, the last glacial or ice age. Having fallen back into these material conditions, reproduction of species was a necessity once more, and so the law of continence supposedly commanded by Incal was broken. Death thus entered again into the sum of human reckoning, and until the word, he observed, no man could know a deathless condition. That is, until the coming of the Word incarnate. Contain thyself is the great command that is written here. On this dependeth all knowledge. No occult law is so great as this. Use all things of this world as abusing none. Such was the popular belief regarding the creation of humankind by Incal. The higher priests held to a religion which was virtually Essenianism, although for obvious reasons the populace were not aware of this fact. The writer is speaking of the religion of the Essenes at the time of Jesus. The date of this fabled occurrence was theologically supposed to have been precedent at least 1,000 centuries, and some semi-authorities set it at even a more extended period than that. Incal, the father of life, was not supposed to punish his children, except that he made the laws of nature self-executive or self-executing. His immanent will, and if anyone transgressed these, the guilt was inexorably punished by nature, it being impossible to set in motion a cause without a consequent effect. If the cause was good, so also was the consequence, and in this they were undeviatingly correct. No mediator can avert for us the results of our misdeeds. So it is the teaching that instead of God directly punishing man in man's compromised state, the law of karma is set in motion through nature itself. And that law is self-executing, and nature and the law contains the immanence of the will of God. And so, to each, there is the receiving of the consequences of his actions. Now, this is an amazing statement that is written here. No mediator can avert for us the results of our misdeeds. And so the footnote says, do not confuse undoing with atonement. Christ atoned, which means he paid the price for our sin so that we could go on living, so that the sin itself would not cause instantaneous death. Christ provides the atonement for our sin. We must undo the sin by making reparations, by balancing our karma, by paying our debts. So Christ does not avert for us the results of our misdeeds, yet he does provide the atonement for them. This is the crux of Christianity's misunderstanding of the forgiveness of sin. Atonement is the forgiveness of sin, but that forgiveness does not absolve us of the responsibility for the sin or of the necessity to learn the lessons of the consequences of our actions. If we identify with one side of sin, we will think that we are suffering, being punished, and God is causing us to suffer and to be punished. If we identify with the true side of sin, we will say, this is divine justice. We will praise divine justice that returns to us the consequences of all of our actions, good causes and bad causes. And we will see that the law is just and that this energy returns to us so that it can be transmuted. And we do have the dispensation of the violet flame today. We do have the mediatorship of our holy Christ self. So if we see returning energy as the opportunity to pay our debts, to transmute misqualified energy that will hurt others if we do not transmute it, then we rejoice in our returning karma. We don't try to avoid it, dodge it, leave the mystery school, avoid the Maxim light or the unfed flame, place ourselves in some far distant place where life is less intense. We come to the intensity of the flame because the flame attracts to itself the intensity of our karma so that we may accelerate. God gives us the greater light for the greater transmutation. Therefore, why flee? As Jesus' disciples said, "Where shall we go, Lord? Thou hast the word of eternal life. Whither shall I flee from thy presence?" So this is a very important teaching, and it has been lost on all of Christendom today for the misstatement or the non-statement of the true teachings of Jesus Christ, who surely brought this message. Whether it is written or not written, Jesus embodied this teaching. The Poseid nation believed in a heaven of good effects for those who put good causes into operation. Obviously, the etheric octave. And there was a region filled with bad effects for the wicked, the astral plane. The two places were adjacent, and those who were neither wholly good nor wholly bad were supposed to live on a middle territory, so to speak. We have spoken of that middle territory being the planet Earth itself. But obviously there is a middle territory when we are out of the body, and that middle territory is probably the highest level of the astral plane or the lowest level of the etheric plane, which converge. But both of these post-vital conditions were included in the shadowy land, as the word Navazamin may be translated literally, a country of departed souls. Though the religion of Incal was one based on cause and effect, nevertheless a slight inconsistency appeared in the more or less prevalent belief that he was supposed to reward the very good. Today, my friend, thou standest on the threshold of a new unfoldment. The religion of today is even yet tinctured by this concept of an omnipotent but man-like creator, heritage of a dead antiquity. But thou art living in the final years of an old human cycle, the sixth. While I choose not at present to explain what this means, I will do so ere I bid thee God's peace. But I will say that humanity's new conception of the eternal cause will be more lofty, more sublime, purer, wider, and more of an approach to boundlessness than anything of which the long-gone eons of time have ever dreamed. Christ is indeed risen, and cometh unto his own, who ere long shall know him, as no exoteric man hath ever known him. And knowing him, they shall know the things of the Father, and do them, because it is written, I go unto my Father. Gloria in excelsis. Faith shall soon be knowledge, belief shall be twin with science, and the word shall blaze as a sun of glorious new meaning. For true religion means, I bind together. You can write down in your notes, religion is from the Latin religio, R-E-L-I-G-I-O, religio. It means the bond between man and the gods, or religare, R-E-L-I-G-A-R-E, to bind back. There is now a figure that is inscribed in the book on this page of a cross. And all ends of the cross are open. And there is a fiat written below the cross which says, close not the ends of my cross. Beneath which I have written in my book, I am the open door, no man can shut. From the right angles formed by the arms of the cross, there go forth lightning-like rays. And there is a 7-pointed star in the center of this cross. There are initials at each end. At the north, there is J period H period. The east, N period H period. West, H period I period. South, V period. The exoteric church hath closed the ends of his cross, wherefore they are exoteric, and shall not ever be esoteric until they open the ends of that four-way path. Open thine eyes and thine ears. We'll have our benediction.
Beloved, mighty I am presence from the heart of God. Seal us in the I am that I am. Seal us in the cosmic cross of white fire. Seal us in our mighty I am presence. Seal us in our holy Christ self. Beloved mighty I am presence, as we know that the day has dawned of our April 23rd karma, so I ask that we might enter into the karmic challenge of the hour with rejoicing, with resources, with practicality, with tremendous joy and thanksgiving for the justice of God, with much discrimination of the Christ self, and with the determination that we shall overcome in the name of Jesus Christ. By the authority of the living word, in the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, and the Divine Mother. Amen.
Trust in him, I place my trust in him, I trust